Hello, my name is Vislugers, and today's video will be about Armored Warfare and specifically the tier 10 vehicles that are going to be implemented in the next patch, which by the way should be coming very soon. In fact, it should be live at the 3rd of May, so that's not too far off. But about the tier 10 vehicles, I bet a lot of people have been waiting them quite keenly, because the tier 10 is the end game goal where you wanna get, and to some extent I agree. It is something to aim and something you wanna eventually go to. But the lineup, as I mentioned in an earlier video, is a bit odd really. It's 4 main battle tanks, 1 light tank and 1 armored fighting vehicle. Let's go into this a little bit more detail and see what exactly is the other half of people's problem with these vehicles. And I personally can kinda choose on which side I am, because I am not a tank nut. I don't know too much of tanks. I know, the basics and stuff. I'm interested about them, about the history of them and so on, but I don't know everything. So let's go into this a bit more from the eyes of someone who actually knows a bit more. So the PL1 light tank, as a lot of people have probably seen the quote-unquote real thing at 2013, it was a prototype vehicle which is not even up to date finished. It hasn't seen any kind of action. Maybe it has gone some trials and stuff, but it's a prototype. We really don't know anything about it, except that it's based to, at least to some degree, to the CV90, which is a real thing, and I believe it has even seen some combat. So it's an odd choice to go for a tank that essentially kinda doesn't exist. There's only a couple of things that the public really knows about the vehicle. We know that what the early prototype looked like, and we know that it has a 120mm autoloading cannon. That's about it. There might be some details that, has been leaked, but I didn't feel like it's necessary to, dig everything out. But the main idea is that this is a future tank. We really don't know what's it gonna be like. And a lot of people have problems with that, because, you do have quite a bit lighter vehicles that could fill in the spot. We have no idea of the armor capabilities of this vehicle. We have no idea how mobile it is. We don't know almost anything about this vehicle. And then we move on to the Sphinx. And this is actually a real thing. The Sphinx is a real armored fighting vehicle. But the only problem is that this vehicle was toe-to-toe with EBRS Jaguar. And what the hell do you mean by that? The French army pretty much had the power to choose one vehicle from these 2 vehicles. Which one it's gonna be? Which one you wanna choose to have as your new fighting vehicle in your arsenal? And guess what? It wasn't the Sphinx. It was the Jaguar. So a lot of people is thinking yeah, so the Sphinx exists as one single prototype version for demonstration purposes. Why didn't they go and make the Jaguar as the tier 10 armored fighting vehicle? I have no idea, because a lot more is known about the Jaguar, and there's a lot more abilities with this vehicle, because the French army will probably modify this to some degree, so some of the upgrades that you could get for the vehicle would be actually real, and there could be variants of the vehicle which wouldn't be far from the truth. And the fact that, this tank is being used in real life gives it just the feeling that, this is a real thing instead of fiction. Now moving on to the first of the main battle tanks, the Leopard 2A7 140. Now this one is also very kind of controversial in the sense that there was a plan to introduce a 140mm gun on the Leopard 2A7, but it was scrapped. So the real thing is going to have a 120mm gun instead of the 140. And a lot of people are saying that the model for the vehicle just looks way off, just dumb. Personally, I have no idea what it's actually supposed to look like, and what are the planned upgrades for the real thing, and so forth. Can't really commentate on the appearance other than just how does it look like. It's not horrible. It does look like it does look a bit like a toy vehicle, but again, we have like a blueprint variant that is never going to actually exist, at least the way they are introducing it into the game. But I guess they are just kind of trying to, evolve intentionally these vehicles to be like the future vehicles. Because the Leopard 2A7 will start with the 120mm L55 Rheinmetall gun, which I believe is a real thing, and you can upgrade it in the game to the 140mm cannon, which is not a real thing. So I guess the developers think that it's a neat thing that could have been, and it's like a what if scenario vehicle, which is kind of okay, but I don't think they have mentioned that these are the future vehicles. It just feels a bit odd, but if that's the way they want to go, I guess it's their choice. Now then we have the XM1A3 Abrams, and I believe the X stands for experimental, so it's another prototype tank, and with just some quick googling, I've come to conclusion that this vehicle as well is not even close to being a reality. And yeah, so we're starting to see a pattern here. These vehicles are like super prototype stage vehicles, so that they're not even remotely being close to be functional or realistic. In exception of the Sphinx, which technically is a real vehicle, but it's not gonna be used, so yeah. Again, it's very odd to have a tank that seems to be a very fictional thing. It does look like a very modern M1A2, but that's a whole different vehicle, so I don't know tanks too well, especially modern vehicles, but yeah, it just feels a bit odd. But I guess they want to have a future super American tank, just like the PL-1, for instance. And of course, then we have the T-14 Armata. So what do we know about this vehicle? Well, almost nothing. We know what it looks like, and we know that it has 125mm gun. So they're going to give it a 152mm gun in the game. Fantastic. It's going to start with a 125 mil, and you can upgrade it to the 152 millimeter gun in the game. But it's just really odd that we have almost no information about this vehicle. We have only, well, I say it's Russian propaganda, and mostly it is Russian propaganda of what it looks like and how it's a super tank. Well, we honestly don't know almost anything about it. So their developers are going to just make up all of its armor values and mobility values. Everything is just it's pretty much just a fiction vehicle again. It is a reality. The Armada is a real tank, but it hasn't ever seen any kind of combat, and only a few people on planet Earth knows what it actually is like, and we certainly do not know what it's like. So yeah, another vehicle that has very little resemblance to its real life characteristics, because there's just no way of knowing what's it going to be like. Yeah. And then we got the Challenger 2 ATDU. Okay. So they changed its name to be ATDU, which I believe stands for... I can't remember what it actually stands for, but it was speculated that it probably stands something like a prototype test build or something like that. Not with that wording, but pretty much with that meaning. So it's another prototype vehicle, but I believe this one is one of the closest ones to being a reality. At least from the main battle tanks. The Sphinx, yeah, maybe the Sphinx is more kinda real thing. But again, the Sphinx is never going to be, mass produced or anything. This thing, however, could be. So in general, all these vehicles, I guess it's how you wanna look at them. If you want these vehicles to resemble what they really are, the Tier 10s are just fiction tanks. They are not real and might not ever be real, which is a bit odd. But if you don't mind that the characteristics of these vehicles just came out of someone's ass and, doesn't have any resemblance to a real tank, well, I guess there's a very little reason to hate them. But a lot of people are thinking that, why? Why exactly are they doing that? And it's really a bit tricky. The World of Tanks is quite famous for having a lot of vehicles that were blueprints or just an idea, maybe a concept or something like that, but never entered service or anything like that. But I guess World of Tanks kinda gets around it by solely on the basis that they have so many vehicles that they're kinda running out of ideas for vehicles that would work in the game. Now, Armored Warfare, on the other hand, does not have this problem. Just like the Sphinx, you could have a lot of vehicles that would replace it. For instance, the Jaguar, maybe the CV-90 that the PL-1 was based on, which is a kinda like light tank, armored fighting vehicle, whatever you wanna think of it, but I guess it's more like a AFV. Anyway, you have a lot of vehicles that would fill this spot, but instead they wanna have some odd design that is not real or is not real and might be a reality in future, or just not be. It's odd, it's really odd that they want to go for these kind of designs instead of something that really exists and could be the thing. But I'm starting to go on and on and on about the same things too much for one video. The last final thing that I'm going to add is that they really should start to look more into the existing vehicles and the existing tanks and so on that they have already put into the game and balance those out. Make those work how they're supposed to work instead of adding new stuff. Because at the end of the day, if there's something in the game that is broken or not working as intended, it does not fix it to just add more stuff into the game that's probably not going to work any better. It's a bit odd. They should make the game a little bit more stable and just have a quality feeling to it. They have themselves said that some tanks' armor models are not working as they should and so on. It just baffles me a bit that, yeah, so you're not fixing them in the next patch or anything, but you have a lot of new vehicles into the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like to have a lot of variety in a game like this, but yeah, it feels odd. Anyway, this video has gone long enough already. Thank you so much for watching. Do share your thoughts about these vehicles in the comments section, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.